This morning, our Dr. Jon LaPook strays into uncharted territory. Truly.
Birds do it, bees do it, even educated fleas do it.
Ella Fitzgerald's talking about love, but there's another thing all animals have in common: a sense of direction. Other animals may navigate better than we humans, and I must admit, most humans navigate better than I do.
Is there a sign that says glacier begins here?
Case in point, the time I visited Iceland with my son. This is our first day in Reykjavik, Iceland. This is the main drag where our hotel is. That's the Atlantic Ocean over there. And yet, I got completely turned around, didn't know where our hotel is. That's why I need help.
We are in the middle of nowhere.
Despite my trouble with navigation, I did manage to track down some experts in the field.
You're going to show me some of the tricks of the trade today.
We started with Vermont Game Warden Mark Schiestel. He's taught other game wardens those tricks of the trade. Official term, land navigation skills.
So whenever I'm introducing somebody to navigating in the wilderness, I teach them to do a Crazy Ivan.
What is a Crazy Ivan?
Cancel my Crazy Ivan!
Crazy Ivan is a Hunt for Red October reference.
Russian captains sometimes turn suddenly to see if anyone's behind them. We call it Crazy Ivan.
Same thing applies to here, is as you're walking, just periodically turn around and look to see what the return trip looks like.
Cancel my Crazy Ivan!
Exactly. I don't think you have
Not
to do it that quickly.
Part of it, for somebody like me who lives in the city, is to train yourself to notice, oh, there's some orange clump of berries there, as opposed to just saying, oh, it's a bunch of wilderness.
Lead the way. Humans do have one advantage over other animals.
Okay,
You
so
put the compass
north
along the
is
edge.
aligned with that red arrow.
The ability to use symbols and tools, like a compass and maps.
And then I turn until Redhead Fred is in the shed.
Correct.
Did I get that right? Okay.
Yes.
Once pointed in the right direction, the next task is staying on course by orienting the compass and map, picking a target, heading for it, repeat until destination.
Orienting yourself on the surface of the earth is a skill that human beings have. I think all of us have that to a greater or lesser degree.
All of our senses are involved together in forming this sense of place.
Professor Nora Newcomb of Temple University studies the psychology of sense of direction.
What got you interested in sense of direction?
Basically that people are bad at it, and yet they ought to be good at it, because if you lose your way, that's really a threat to survival.
A sense of direction is encoded in the very wiring of the brain.
So that's an important landmark.
Specialized nerve cells track where you're headed and where you are in relation to landmarks, a kind of internal map system. In 2014, the Nobel Prize was awarded to the scientists who discovered these cells, place cells which pinpoint particular locations to help us recognize our environment, and grid cells that make a grid-like pattern to help track distance and position.
These are cells that fire when you're at this place, but also this place, or this place, or this place, or this place, in a regular grid-like pattern.
So your brain is actually creating maps of where you've been.
Yes.
In your research, have you found that men ask for directions more or less than women?
Actually, people don't exactly know that.
Research has shown some differences. Men can escape from a maze faster than females and might be more likely to take shortcuts.
There are definitely biological theories. People make it out to be a really big difference, but it's not that big.
In my marriage, my wife usually drives.
Okay.
And she does have a better sense of direction than I do.
Well, in my marriage, I'm the one who says, let's not ask for directions, let's use the map. So we both defy sex stereotypes.
So we went out, and when we went to the right.
Newcomb has created a virtual world
Zero in on it as best you can.
to test people on learning, remembering, and connecting routes.
We're trying to diagnose their sense of direction, and some people turn out to be much better at this than others.
She's building a cognitive profile of proficient human navigators.
So what this is really testing is your ability to figure out where something is without seeing it.
Exactly.
And what do you learn from something like this?
Some people are pretty good at putting together the route.
And then some of the people who can put together the route are good at relating the routes to each other. But some people are truly extraordinary.
How do you explain that sense of direction savant?
They are using, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, every single cue there is, and really from the start trying to make that sort of overhead map.
And do I clearly fall into a group yet?
I would say you're not what we call an imprecise navigator, so you pass that bar.
That's not saying I'm great, but I'm not imprecise.
No.
Of course, in today's cell phone world, imprecise human navigators can survive. But for animals, it's a different story. Robert Rockwell, known as Rocky, is a biologist at New York's American Museum of Natural History. He studies polar bears and snow geese in the Canadian Arctic.
I move north with the birds.
So literally. Really?
Literally,
You migrate.
every spring.
You follow the birds?
51 years.
His birds spend the winter along the Gulf Coast and migrate north to the Arctic tundra.
Then as they move along, they use visual cues to find places that have got agricultural fields, rivers that they recognize.
Stops which fuel their 2,500-mile flight.
And when they get right to the nesting colony, a female snow goose will oftentimes nest within 2 feet of where she nested last year. I think it's a combination of cues.
Beyond visual cues, the birds use the position of the sun, a sense of smell, and a kind of built-in compass. They may also possess a magnetic sense.
So as you get closer and closer to the poles, the magnetic strength is a little higher.
And they can feel it?
And it is thought that they can do that.
Is there anything about this, as you've studied it, that you thought, this is magic?
I think the magic is that they can use all these sensory modalities and integrate them flawlessly.
The experts agree. It's possible to hone a sense of direction, but awareness is key.
So as someone who arrived this morning saying I have absolutely no sense of direction, how do you feel now? A little bit better?
I do feel better. Seriously, I mean, it's exciting to learn how to use even just a compass in conjunction with a map for real. In terms of sense of direction, what can we learn from other animals?
I think the best thing you can learn from them is to watch how they deal with their environment. An elder told me when I first started working in the Arctic that I should just sit on a rock and watch the animals. The point is to be aware of what's going on around you, and I think too many of us get fixated on, well, I can always find my way because I can pull out Google Maps, or I can pull out my phone and tell it I want to go there and then just follow the little arrow.
So where does GPS come in here? Is it bad for our sense of direction?
Lots of people do think that it's bad, including me. If you rely on it too much, then you aren't forming an overview of the environment. You're preventing yourself from building up something that I strongly feel is part of appreciating the world.
Which is to say, instead of looking down at your phone, look around. Because to get where you're going, you've got to really see where you are.